ある昔、名誉だけがこの地の運命を司っていた。これは、ある名誉を傷つけられた戦士の物語である。そして、一人の外国人の協力を得、どのように傷つけられた名誉を回復するか。そして、我々の歴史を変えた。
Hello, this is Yasai Ninja, an indie action-adventure where we play as a sentient broccoli and sentient onion, or maybe sapient is a better word. The game is split up into two gameplay attributes. There's beat-em-up combat, and then there's platforming. And since we're playing single-player, our AI partner will attack enemies, and he'll actually destroy them. The AI partner is actually very competent at using their abilities where it's best suited. The only downside is that in combat, when you destroy an enemy, you will sometimes gain life from the defeated enemy, which refills your health bar. These are the only health pickups in the game, and if your AI partner is fighting alongside you, they may accidentally take some health that you earned. But it can't be helped. Broccoli Joe and Kaoru also both have unique adventure abilities, one each. Kaoru can push heavy objects, and Broccoli Joe can mess with mechanisms, forcing them to break open. We just did that with Broccoli Joe now. Forcing mechanisms open is a quick time event, and pushing heavy objects is just pushing heavy objects. Both of them are just ways to open doors. There are differences between Kaoru and Broccoli Joe aside from their adventure abilities though. They have very distinct combat styles, and right now we're playing as Broccoli Joe because he has a 3-hit combo already, while Kaoru only has a 2-hit combo. Kaoru and Broccoli Joe both share experience, and when they defeat enough enemies they will level up, which will give them new combat abilities, and this will change how the game is played. But for now we're going to push a heavy block with Kaoru. We only need to push it forward this time, but when we need to do any cornering with these heavy blocks it can get tricky. That's because when Kaoru is pushing a heavy block, the game switches controls to some strange tank controls with more weight, which makes sense because he's moving a heavy block. And it's not too frustrating. This level is very good for teaching the player what to expect from the game. You open a door using a couple of switches, fight a bunch of enemies, and then open another door using a couple of switches. What really gives the game legs is the amount of abilities you gain as the game progresses, the two playable characters, and the really goofy story. Right now we encountered a panning cutscene, and whenever these cutscenes trigger it means we've hit a checkpoint. It's actually a really nice way to show checkpoints triggering. And we need to cross the water using platforms, but there aren't enough platforms yet, so we need to go down these side hallways to press more switches. Again, this first level is good at teaching you what to expect from the game. If you're curious about how the combat is going so far, I'm really just mashing square and holding the control stick in the direction of the enemy I want to face. That's all we're doing so far. That will change eventually, but for now that's all we need to do. Also, when I'm jumping outside of combat, that's just because jumping is faster. This does have the downside of leaving the enemy AI behind, though. So it might take time for them to catch up and help you in combat if you do that. So the switch is right ahead, and a lot of games let you skip enemies and pull switches without even fighting them, as we've discovered, but this isn't one of them. The game actually stops you from progressing until you fight the enemies, which is more than I can say for a lot of other more polished AAA titles, where fighting the enemies is optional even though you're supposed to fight them. So that's already one leg Yasai Ninja has up on some other games. Now this is the 3D platforming. It works fine. The characters are very light, they have no weight to them at all, which means maneuvering them in the air is a breeze. You just have to get used to how light they are. And this is the first room where you might encounter trouble, especially since we're here alone, we're actually going to die. Getting surrounded by enemies is a good way to do that. But after we die, our AI partner can still come and rescue us, and the AI will prioritize rescuing you over everything else. So most of the time he'll be able to help us back up. The combat is very sluggish and uninspired by now. It gets much less sluggish, but whether it gets less uninspired, or rather whether it gets more inspired, I guess I'll leave up to you. It certainly does mix up a bit though. I should mention that Kaoru and Broccoli Joe both have unique defensive abilities. Broccoli Joe can dodge and Kaoru can block. I'm not sure if Broccoli Joe's dodge works, but you don't really need it. You don't need Kaoru's block either. Well, I should say we won't need it when we start playing as him. If we were playing as Kaoru for this first level, we would definitely need his block. He starts the game with only a 2-hit combo, which is very weak compared to Broccoli Joe's 3-hit combo. So if you play as Kaoru in the first level, you do need to block quite a bit. But we're playing as Broccoli Joe because it's easier for now. That will change later. The game has a shifting meta of sorts, where one of the characters briefly has an edge over the other, and they keep bouncing this edge back and forth throughout the game as they gain new abilities. I don't know if this was intentional, but it's still rather nice. It gives you incentive to play as both characters instead of just sticking with one. Here's another panning cutscene, which means we've hit another checkpoint. And you might have correctly guessed that in this area we do need to defeat enemies and press switches to unlock a big door. But this is also the first area I should say, where we will encounter a new ability. After we defeat the next few enemies, we will get a new power that will cement Broccoli Joe's usefulness and make Kaoru seem even less useful. But that will change eventually, we just have to wait a while. It is in your best interest to have the AI behind you, even if you want him to help during combat, so that way he can revive you and you both don't fall at once. This is one of the 2 switches, and when we jump down on this ledge, I think, is where we get the ability. Yeah, there we go. Now we have Broccoli Joe's heavy attack, which is a force shove of kinds. It causes knockback, and it's great for hit and run tactics, which is something I'll demonstrate after we jump over this water. Very easy platforming, by the way. Over here's the second switch and a group of enemies, and we're going to use his force shove now. As promised, it knocks the enemies back, and it also kills them in only 2 hits. It's Broccoli Joe's big damage dealing move, and as you're seeing here, it's great for hitting and running. You knock them back, you turn around, and then you knock them back again. Its usefulness during boss fights also can't be overstated. You want to use it during almost every boss in the game. Speaking of bosses, I do believe we have a cutscene coming up. This guy is more of a mini-boss, but he does have a lot of health and he really tests your combat abilities. We're going to use the same hit and run tactics I demonstrated earlier on him, because that will make us far less easy to hit, and it will allow us to deal with his goons very quickly. Kaoru, on the other hand, is just going to wander around, I suppose. As our attack deals so much damage, the boss won't take very long to defeat, but if we were using basic square button attacks, it would take quite a while. Kaoru, or whatever AI partner you have currently, will die a lot during boss battles. It's just inevitability.